Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Walt Wines Happy Hour. My name is Jeff Sapelli, and you have reached our weekly happy hours that we've been hosting ever since last April, just to talk about wine and talk about some interesting people. And today I have an incredible comedian on with us. His name is Tom Papa, and he'll be here just really quickly. But before I get going, we actually wanted to come on because we know a lot of our club members are here and just say that we can't wait to see you. We know you want to get a reservation. We're very sorry, and we hope that you'll stay patient with us. All of our tasting rooms are open, but for Walt, that we have one in Napa, one in Sonoma, and one in Healdsburg. And we also have a tasting room for Hall and Baca, and Napa and Healdsburg. And we know that it's hard to get a reservation right now, but we're really excited to see you, and we hope you'll hang in there for us while we wait for this initial surge of people that are coming to see us. We have some incredible wines that we're just releasing, including our 2019 Bob's Ranch Pinot Noir, and we hope that you'll come and see us soon. But check out what we have. www.waltwines.com is the easiest way to find a reservation. Monday through Thursday, we're wide open. We would love to see you. But we know that you probably didn't come to hear me talk about our tasting rooms. I have today an incredible comedian. He's a purist at stand-up, although he does TV and movies. But what I enjoy watching is all of his stand-up. You can see him in his show or in his podcast, What a Joke. You can go to Netflix and see How Are You Doing? Breaking Bread with Tom Papa might be one of my favorite podcasts. And then he has a tour coming up, the Family Reunion, which is starting in Las Vegas. I think, Tom, you're joining us from LA and you're here today?
I am. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, sir. It's good to see you.
Likewise.
So I started drinking our 2017 Corners, but you and I wanted to try our Gap's Crown Pinot Noir, which is a wine from the Sonoma coast. And I'm going to attempt to pass this to you through the internet.
All right. And I am going to grab it.
Okay.
Nice work. I've got it.
There it is.
Beautiful.
I-5.
Beautiful. Look at that.
Take that modern technology. Yeah, absolutely.
I do love your label.
Oh, thank you. Have you been up to Napa or Sonoma to taste?
Yes, I have. I love it up there. there. Last I was in Sonoma, I performed at that outdoor venue. It's like a indoor outdoor gorgeous performing arts center. I was there with Live from Here, which is the NPR show. And oh man, I forget the name of it. It was such a beautiful place.
I think it's called Luther Burbank, but it was at one point called Wells Fargo, and then before that it had another name.
Right.
And then we also have the one at Sonoma State.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was gorgeous. All this woodwork, all on the inside, and then it opens up to this hill. Yeah. And it was gorgeous.
Well, cheers to you. Thank you so much for joining. You're a connoisseur of fine wine. You're a podcaster of fine wine. I appreciate that.
I love wine.
You love wine. What are some of your favorites?
Oh man, I'm still on a journey, but I've been a lot of Chateauneuf-du-Papes lately. Okay. I started reading Jim Harrison, who's one of our great authors, who's since passed, and he had this real passion for Bandol. Okay. Which is like this rustic, southeastern, like real little knobby thing. That's but he also loved eating like a madman, and he would eat like a lot of wild game and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of wine is it's good with that. And then I've been kind of figuring out Barolos, which is a pretty expensive habit.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was
figuring it out is one way to say it.
Yeah, I was like, man, these are this. Maybe I'll just stick with Nebbiolo or go back to my Brunello Italian restaurant standbys. Yeah, but really great. And then living here in California is just we went with some friends up to Solvang, and then I performed in Napa at a theater there, and it's just so great to like be able to drop into these places and just get a feel for it. And it's really interesting, not to go on, but go. Jim Harrison was a kind of a French and Italian wine snob, and he would really attack California wines, but he wrote probably 30 years ago. And every time I like come across like a little thing about him like slamming some kind of wine or something, I'm like, oh, he just didn't live long enough.
True, probably. We figure it out after a couple of years. It takes a little while, but
so good, yeah.
No, it's so good. Thank you. So, well, this is Pinot Noir from the Sonoma Coast, and cheers to you.
Mm-hmm. Around my mic.
And just a quick shout out. Actually, there's a Philippe Canby and Adam Lee so Adam Lee's from California, and Philippe Canby's actually known for making Chateauneuf, and so they are making Pinot Noir from our vineyard right now, which is kind of fun for us. So check out Beau Marché after you're checking out your Walt wines. Little shout out to him.
What do you mean? Explain that to me. What is he doing?
So we get into these collaborations just like artists do, where they'll create. So in this case, it's a Pinot Noir producer from California, Adam Lee, and Philippe Canby from Chateauneuf, and they are making Pinot Noir from California.
Got it.
You can check that out if you want to feel like you're in the middle. What's that?
And they're doing that here.
And they're doing that here from our vineyards.
Got it. Wow, that's exciting.
So we sell some wine or sell some grapes. We make a lot of our own wines is the majority of what we do. But we also make wine from all the way from Oregon all the way down to Santa Barbara, as I think you probably saw from the package that we sent you. It was from a lot of different places.
What a beautiful package. I was so happy. It just kept coming. The FedEx guy was like, I'm sorry. I just had to make sure you're here because there's a lot. And I had been waiting for the wine delivery. I was like, a lot. This is a guy that's used to carrying a lot of heavy packages, and he just rolled up with all this wine. I was so excited.
Oh, cool. There is nothing better than a box that's got "You must be 21 and over" stickered on it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is really nice, though. This is the first I'm tasting this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's it feels like it's a little somewhere between a Cab and a Pinot. It's a little more body to it. Would you say that? I know the Pinot is sometimes is a little too light for me in a way. Mm-hmm. It depends what other character it has, but sometimes they can tend to. This is nice. I don't know if it's really nice, or I'm just excited to be drinking at 4 on a Tuesday.
Well, then you need to come visit us, because we'll start drinking as early as sometimes 7:30 in the morning, or if it's harvest, we might be out there at 7 o'clock checking on tanks. So.
That's great.
But no, I would totally agree with you. This is a great bridge wine for somebody who's into bigger, heartier wines, and you want to go more dainty or more delicate.
Right.
Or reverse. If you're a Pinot Noir person, you're dabbling in the more structured wines, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sangiovese. Gap's Crown is it's small little berries with a whole lot of flavor, a lot more tannin than you usually find in Pinot Noir.
Right.
Color density similar to the flavor profiles you get in more structured wines. So. Right.
Oh, it's really nice.
Well, cheers to you.
Cheers.
So I wanted to get into your career a little bit, if that's all right.
Sure.
I've been following you as a comedian, I guess, as a fan since the early 00s, but I was kind of wondering how you got your start and how you got into comedy.
I always wanted to be a comedian since I was a kid, and I came to New York. I grew up in New Jersey, and then once I graduated college, which was a small school in New Jersey, I went up towards New York, and I picked up a Village Voice and was flipping through it, just looking for cool bands and stuff. And there was a New York Comedy Club said, if you bring 3 friends that would sit in the audience and pay the 2-drink minimum, you get to go on stage for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I was super excited. And I remember going into my room, I was super nervous, and I called the number and scheduled it. And it was June 12th, 1993.
Okay.
Was the, we're coming up on my birthday, my comedy birthday.
Oh,
and then just went in and did it. And that was it. I mean, literally there was 5 people in the audience. 3 were my friends.
Did you have to pay for their drinks, or did you? Did they actually do it on their own?
No. I wrote the jokes.
Okay.
And that was it. I was hooked immediately, because I was funny my whole life, but never got up on stage before. I'd never been in a comedy club before. And once we did that was it. You just go down that long, bumpy open mic road.
Yeah, exactly.
In New York for a bunch of years.
Bump along. My nephew's doing that. Not nephew. My cousin's doing that right now at Laugh Factory in Los Angeles. Actually, that's what he talks about. Is he's like, you kind of just throw some things at the wall, and sometimes it sticks.
Yeah, that's a long open mic process at the Laugh Factory. There's like they do that line out the front like on a Monday afternoon. It's like 100 people, and then you get up there for like 3 minutes in front of nothing but other nervous comedians.
Yes.
Then if you're good enough, you'll sit with the owner and he'll tell you why you stink. It's rough, but it's good for him. I mean, it really. If you really want to do it, you do not look at those days as difficult. And even when you're in it, you're just so excited to be a part of it. Yeah. You know it sucks, but you're just so happy to be there that that's how you really can tell if you really, really want to do it. Because you're not even thinking like, this is weird that I'm telling jokes at 4 PM in front of 2 people.
And just working on your material. So has there been a lot of development in material? Like, how do you develop material in a pandemic when you can't actually be out there?
Yeah. Well, that eliminated the final editing process. You know, you could always write stuff, you could always come up with stuff, but you need to be in front of an audience for them to tell you what works and what doesn't, and how are you connecting with them in any capacity at all. But you could still write, and you know, I've written 2 books. I'm on my 3rd book right now, and that I could keep going with. So I would just keep writing. After a bit, it was difficult to write. Like when that all happened, up until like June, there was no writing. You're just like, why am I writing? I'm not even sure if I'm going to be alive.
Yeah, exactly.
But then as it started to calm down and open up, I was able to just keep writing for the books. And then there's certain stuff like you write and you realize this probably isn't going to hold up as a complete essay, but this will probably go into the stand-up file. So I just kept noodling with that. And then, but you know, it's funny. Like I just started going back on stage heavily, like in the last month. Yeah. And most of the stuff I'm talking about, I've written in the last 3 weeks.
So it's now okay to, I mean, I think it's okay now for us as a society to, you know, we've been through a lot. It's time to laugh, right? It's time for us to laugh.
100%. And there was definitely, that is no joke. When I'm with my friends and we're meeting up and they're coming to our house and we have no mask, that's the toast that I keep making over and over. That's what I keep saying on stage, that you deserve to be toasted. I'm proud of you. Like you got through something. This was not a small thing. This was a big achievement forever. I don't know what you did. I don't know anything about you, but I know mentally you had to take care of yourself and your family, and you had to muddle through. And to whatever degree, everybody had to deal with something. So cheers to you for getting through it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just also wanted we have a couple of questions coming in from the audience. Want to just remind anybody who's tuning in, we've got Tom Papa, incredible comedian here. If you have any questions for him about anything, and looks like our first one came from Lisa. Do you ever test your jokes on anyone, or do you just wing it?
I just wing it. Okay. I don't really test them. Sometimes I'll have an idea and in a conversation I'll bring it out, but not as like a real joke. I used to test them on my wife. Okay. But she's such a harsh critic that if I listened to anything she was saying, I never would have tried a single joke. Yeah. She'd always be like, no, I don't think so. And that went on for a while. And then I'm like, I gotta try something. Yeah. And then the audience was like, this is a great joke. I was like, all right, my wife doesn't get to be the tester anymore.
Too harsh of critic. Yeah. Yeah, I can't say that I have we don't have an open mic when we do wine dinners, but oftentimes, you know, we'll host wine dinners in the field and in the market, and I would love to host you as well at the winery. But we're talking about wine, and we're getting into our speech, and I'm telling the stories, and then I'll just inadvertently someone will just raise their hand and be like, "So I just don't like it," and you're like, "Okay, like hopefully everyone else in the room liked it, because if you're not getting it, like, this isn't going to go very well for the rest of the night.
Yeah. When they say that, they're talking about the wine or about what you're saying?
Sometimes about both, but usually more about the wine. So you get a little bit of both. You get sometimes people who either know a lot, like they actually are winemakers, and there's like one or two sometimes in the crowd. You got to feel that out, because then you got to make sure you're really on your game. You don't tell any funny stories.
Yeah.
And then there's people who don't know, but they think they know. And we have to gently explain to them kind of what you're getting at and what you're talking about.
It's such a that's got to be a difficult thing, because literally last night I had my nephew over and we opened this bottle and it was a little heavy. It was like, all right, this is okay. Like, maybe it'll open up. You're just hoping, let's see. And it didn't really, until we had these spicy sausages, and then the wine was spectacular.
Yeah.
So like, at any point, who knows what that person ate? Who knows what they did? Who knows what their palate
chewing
is?
Gum. They could have been like chewing gum.
It's too subjective. That's a difficult thing to wrap your head around.
Tequila shots in the beginning, followed by
some White Claws in a fight with their girlfriend.
Could have been, right? You never know at these wine dinners. So Carlos Guzman, all the way from Arkansas, if you can believe it,
Carlos
wanted to know, if you weren't a comedian, what would you be doing?
I probably would have been a writer of some sort. I probably would have been living in Arkansas, working for the small community newspaper, covering the Little League, trying to be funny in my little articles. But yeah, it would have been some kind of writing. I had a job in the beginning for a little bit before I could make enough as a comedian, where I was writing ad copy for a small agency. So yeah, some kind of writing, probably.
Okay. Yeah, I think,
and that's probably where I'll end up. By the way, I'll probably end up in Arkansas, working for a community newspaper, formerly The Comedian.
Well, if you were writing for, I think Carlos is in Fayetteville, so if you're there, or no, he's in Bentonville, so he's a friend of ours. So
all right,
for the winery.
All right, I'll see you in about 20 years.
So what was it like when we're making wine, we'll have, different wines. Well, maybe there might be 8 lots of this one wine from this one vineyard that we're making. And we're kind of, the winemakers are blending, and I'm sitting in the back just going like, these all taste really good, but I don't actually make the wine. I just put it all together when they're done with it. But there's a moment when the winemakers go, that's good. Like, that's it. Nailed it. And, put their hands down, blend the wine. What was it like, the moment, and when did you know that you were going to make it in comedy and you were really going to make a career out of it?
It's hard to say. It really is, because it's such a slow progression. I mean, creatively, I was pretty funny pretty fast. So like, I was able to go into open mics and kind of shine, and really, with comedy, whether you're making people laugh or not immediately, right? So I was able to get that part. Like, I knew I could do it pretty quickly. There was a lot to learn, and I had to become a much better writer and performer. It took years, but I knew I could do it. That was enough. Like, I knew that I could do it. But then career-wise, it's like you kind of muddle along and try and find your way. And I say the biggest breaks in my career were meeting Jerry Seinfeld. He came into a New York comedy club while I was on stage 2 nights in a row, and he thought I was funny, and we struck up a conversation. And he had just finished his show and was coming back to New York, and I just hung on to him and would not let him go. And I learned so much from him. I learned how to be a writer, how to carry yourself as a comedian, how to take care of your business. All of it was such a break. That was huge. And then you get these little breaks along the way. You get on Letterman, or you get your first Comedy Central, and all these things, these little building blocks kind of build this structure. And then all of a sudden you've been a comedian for 15 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. There's no
Pretty
getting
awesome.
out now. Yeah.
And now you're on Netflix. Now there's like you basically you're like the top hit on Google. If you Google Tom Papa, you see you,
Yeah.
tompapa.com.
Yeah, I just had to beat out those other 3 Tom Papas. That was my goal. I'm gonna beat that insurance salesman and that teacher in Des Moines, and I'm Tom Papa.
I'm Tom Papa. Well, I wanted to talk about the wine, so thanks for bringing that back in. So this is, as I mentioned, the 2018 Gaps Crown Pinot Noir. So there's for everyone. We were supposed to be tasting the 2017 Corners, but apologize, Tom. We'll have to send you that bottle again. We sent you the wrong wine, so not your fault.
There's a really good chance that I drank it without even looking at it. I got so excited.
So this is Gaps Crown it's a vineyard. It's a big vineyard, actually. It's about 170 acre vineyard, and it sells to 17 different producers that I'm aware of. The owners might sell to more than that, but that's what I know. And it's on a hill, and we're on the kind of the top of the mountain, and the wind blows right through and hits it. And so it's an area called the Petaluma Wind Gap, where you get a lot of cold air from the Pacific Ocean coming right by the Bodega Bay, if you've been to Bodega Bay. And it deposits itself right on the mountain. So the berries stay really small, tight little clusters.
Right.
And that's what produces the big fruit in this wine, and the textural quality of the wine too, because you get more juice to skin ratio, which is, I think I've just now done that to a lot of our viewers, but basically the tannins all come from the skin, and so the more skin to juice contact, the more you get color, and the more you get that textural component in wine. But I just like it because it's really good, and I think for a lot of people, for Pinot Noir, it's not that earthy quality that you find. It's more pure fruit. It's darker fruit, which tends to be more lush. So that's what I like about the wine. I don't know if you had any thoughts.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not earthy though. It definitely has. It definitely gives you that thing that you're looking for in Pinot. Yeah. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's not like that real soily tobacco box. But let me ask you this: when you have that, which you described very nicely, exactly where those grapes are growing, and we're drinking a 2018, and you get wines that like this, then okay, you can depend on them. And some years will be stellar, some years will be off the charts, and very rarely will it really dip below.
But
how much fluctuation is there normally in
vintage?
Yeah.
So I mean, there isn't flavor wise a lot of variation, because the vineyard tends to give you the same flavors every year. So you wouldn't find it wildly different from year to year. But in 2018 was a really nice year. It was a great vintage. Wasn't hot, wasn't cold. We had a lot of rain in the beginning of the year. So it was a very, the soils were very, prepared, and we didn't have to give it a lot of water.
Right.
So that's always good, because you actually don't want to give the vines water throughout the season. You want to control the vigor of the vine. But where it changes a lot is you might have late rains. You might have a lot of mid-summer heat. You might have a lot of heat at the end of harvest, and that can drive like acidity away from the wine, so that you just end up there's not as much acidity as there is, I think, in the 2019 vintage. If you were to taste these side by side, and would love to do that with you, by the way, so that when you and the wife can make a trip to Sonoma or Napa, let me know.
Yeah.
But those are the changes. So you'll see these just subtle differences, and then there's also a little bit of reaction to how the winery is going to deal with that. So if you have a lot of fruit and a lot of tannin, we're probably not going to give it as much oak. So you're going to back off in the amount of time that it's in oak. So there's a little bit of a vintage variability, and that's all in the French words terroir. Terroir is basically everything that happens to the wine. That's not just the purity of the fruits. That could be the winemaker. That could be the terroir it's actually grown in. It could be dust that lands on it. It could be a mouse that falls into the tank. That's all terroir.
That's all terroir. Wow. See, I learned something. I always thought that was all of those elements about of where where it came from, just like the earth or like the clay or the salt or whatever.
It's most of it. That's most of the terroir. But then there's also this barrel winemaker hand that becomes part of the terroir.
Got it. All right. Look, we're learning something.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm learning a lot about comedy today. So, so you have, and it's currently, you did a road trip, I think it was in 2018. But one of your catchphrases that I love watching is "Have you ever?" So,
right.
if you were to say, have you ever, and you will tell about a situation you've been in, and then it's always, I have.
Right. I have. Yeah. Have you ever done an interview about wine with your friend Jeff and you realize I'm going to spend a lot of time finding him when I go to Northern California? I have.
I have.
Yeah.
That's a really good one, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we wanted to play a quick game of have you ever, and if that's all right, and you don't actually have to answer I have. You can just drink if you prefer not to. So we'll start with have you ever been at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles and you forgot the punchline of a joke?
No, I have not. I have not. There have been times when I've never forgotten the punchline for a joke, but in New York, you would do so many shows a night. You could do like 6 shows a night.
Oh my God.
Where I would forget, have I told this joke already in this set? And there have been a couple times where I thought I had not told it and started telling it. And then someone yells, "You just told that one." And I was like, oh, that really hurts. Because it really shows that you're not present. It really shows like you were just on autopilot.
It's not a play, right? You're not doing a show on Broadway. It's it's a live, fluid thing.
Yeah.
So, have you ever been heckled at a performance?
Of course. That happens. That happens with some frequency, but it's not something that I really worry about. You learn pretty quickly. I'm funnier than all of these people, and I have the microphone and a spotlight. This should not be a fair fight.
Yeah, no, it's never a fair fight. I've watched it happen literally.
Yeah,
and you're just like, actually in San Francisco at the club you're going to be playing at Cobb's. You're going to be playing at Cobb's in a little bit. I'm going to try to get tickets.
Yeah, in
December. I've seen somebody at Cobb's try to heckle a comedian, and I just was like, don't.
Yeah. The only way that they have the courage to do it is if they're really drunk, if they keep going. And that, like, you could devastate them. The whole audience is on your side. They're just crucifying this person, and they keep coming. And then you need a bouncer just to carry them out.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. All right, so we had another. So thank you for that. Have you ever been in Los Angeles and you're closing up a movie with Matt Damon and had a glass of wine?
Oh, I have. Oh, I have. Yes, indeed. I've done a couple with him now. And one of the great things about finishing up a movie with him is that he has really good wine.
Yes, he does.
He is the kind of wine that you break out and you're like, I've never heard of this. It's got a weird label. Did they only make 5 bottles of this?
Yeah.
And that's a real treat. That's one of those times where you're like, all right, we've actually done something. Thank you, comedy.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Well, we say thank you. We've heard there's a retailer there that we know that Matt's bought our wines before. So
nice.
When you're there, you can ask him for,
I'll drop the name. I'll be like, I was just drinking with Zappelli. How about that?
You won't know who he'd say Catherine Hall. He'll know Catherine Hall. I'm just a business guy that I work for. All right. And then the last question we wanted to ask you was, have you ever been in a situation where you broke character during the show?
Yeah. There's definitely been some, because I have this show on Sirius XM called Come to Papa, which runs on Comedy Greats, and it's kind of like this variety show, old classic radio show with sketches and music and comedians. and I write it all. And when I do the sketches, there's been a couple times where you just fall out in the middle of it, and you can't regain it. And it's always disheartening as the writer, because the audience laughs harder at that than anything you could ever write. They just love that for some reason. So yeah, it happens.
Well, I think of that. So I love those moments because I'm not a comedian, and I think when a comedian is so funny that they're making themselves laugh.
Yeah,
that's why it's so genuine. You're just literally laughing at the content you just came up with. So
yeah, there's something about all those elements. When the heckler pops in, or when you're doing something off the cuff, it's live and it's in the moment. You know that it's authentic and it's happening, or you do crowd work, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it just it's very truthful and in the moment, and everybody kind of wakes up when those things happen.
Yeah, no, and you just literally you're just starting to watch the two people on stage trying to figure out how to get back to content, but they're just so funny.
But then the other part of it is when people do it to save themselves, and you can tell they're pretending to crack up at it because they know the sketch is bombing. You've seen that on SNL sometimes. You're like, yeah, they don't think it's that funny. They're just trying to save themselves.
Oh, that is for sure. Well, Tom, I wanted to thank you so much. You've given us a lot of your time. I know you've got a couple big shows going up. Is there anything you wanted to make sure that all the listeners and viewers heard?
Yeah, if you go to tompapa.com, that has everything from the books to the podcast, the Breaking Bread podcast, to my tour. I have a new tour after we're coming out of all this. It's called the Family Reunion Tour.
Yeah.
I've got a big show in Vegas on July 30th, and then it kicks off and goes everywhere. Salt Lake City, all around the country. Pretty much I won't be home until about March.
God.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. So yeah, if you go to tompapa.com, you can find out all that stuff.
Absolutely. And make sure you I follow you on Instagram at Tom Papa. So make sure you check that out, because there's a great way to just see some short sketches that you've done.
All right, cool. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. This wine is really, I'm just starting to go through the box that you sent, and I'm enjoying it a lot. And we should do this again.
Yeah. Let me know. We'd love to have you on. Thank you so much, Tom Papa, for coming by.
All right.
Everyone,
thank you.
Everyone, that was Tom Papa, amazing comedian. Hope you'll follow him at Tom Papa, and make sure to follow us for the fans who jumped on. Follow us at Walt Wines on our Instagram page or Facebook page or Twitter page or any of the social media pages that you follow. You can find us at Walt Wines, and we hope that you too will come make a stop to see us. Bring all of your friends, and if I'm there, feel free to heckle me while I'm tasting you through the wines. Here's to everyone who's out there right now. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. Hope you can enjoy a little wine this evening. So pop a cork and join us every Wednesday throughout the rest of the summer. Cheers.